All right, welcome back to the Oregon Ducks Live on the Voice of College Football. This is episode 2. I'm Bjorn Bergstrom.
I'm Brody Gobler.
I'm Brendan Eberly.
All right, welcome back, everybody. For this podcast, we're going to be reviewing the Minnesota game, and then we're going to be previewing the college football playoff that will be coming out on Tuesday. All right, so Ducks came away with the 42-13 win over Minnesota. We're going to be going over our biggest takeaways. Brody, if you want to take it away with Dante Moore, what'd you see from him?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of talking about it. The past games just felt like it clicked finally. Whether that was because we weren't playing in a monsoon for the first time in a few weeks, or because we finally are using our star players. I think it looked a lot more on schedule. And Sadiq obviously had a great day, and Malik Benson, man, like come on, like he has been one of those guys that when he first came, I was like, I'm not sure. He's got drop problems. I think we might be fine. He might not get a lot of play time, and he's earned every second of play time. He's been making plays left and right, and yeah. So those two guys. Oh, and sorry, Jamari Johnson. Like those three guys are just like continue to impress me each and every week. So
yeah, a little more on Dante. He went 27 of 30, 90% completion percentage. That's program record. 306 passing yards. That's a career high for him. The last time he threw for 300 was against Oregon State in week 4. 2 touchdowns, one to J-Mac, and then one to Kenyon Sadiq. Sadiq had a career day as well. 8 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. Brendan, what do you see from Sadiq?
Man, Sadiq played great. I mean, he had that one play where his helmet touched the turf. I don't know. It looked like a touchdown to me, but he got the ball in the next play. But Sadiq was great, and it was kind of good to see Stein actually utilize him in the offense. I've kind of mentioned it last time, but I felt like Stein. I mean, we talked about it. Will Stein gets a little cute, and this time he just fed Sadiq. He just he made him the focal point of the offense at times, and that was kind of what needed to happen. And man, did he show out!
Yeah, speaking of Stein, I think he did get a little cute in the beginning, and especially that third and long Cooper Perry hook and ladder. I don't know what that was, but I mean I think he threaded the needle once again. I talked about it last week about Iowa getting all the 3 running backs the requisite amount of touches. Whittington 8 for 72 and that breakaway touchdown where he just carried the pile, almost fumbled the ball out the back of the end zone, but it was a touchdown. Davison 7 for 57, 2 first quarter touchdowns, and then De'Aaron Hill carried the ball 6 times for 22 yards, caught 3 passes for 22 yards. Brody, what did you see from the backfield?
I mean, Stein's still getting creative, just like last week at Iowa. We were talking about him getting more creative with those inserts and everything. But this week, one of the things that I noticed was those 2 back sets with De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davidson. And they're almost running it like the Packers were with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon back in that 2018 to 2022, or like LaFleur's first couple of seasons on the Packers, where they're swinging out De'Aaron Hill and they're deciding whether to hand it off to Davidson or throw it out the hill on that swing RPO. So I just really have loved the evolution of the run game as we've continued. And the offensive line looked great. We switched Pragon over to right guard to kind of help Harkey out as he's coming back from injury. And I think they looked really good, and they looked really dominant against historically very tough and just like well-coached Minnesota front.
Yeah. I think one of my takeaways is that Minnesota didn't play bad at all. They played well, and Darius Taylor, who is their star running back, it came out that he was gonna be available first time in a couple weeks, and he finished with 97 total yards, but every yard was tough. The Ducks made it hard for him. Every single yard. Betcher led the team with 6 tackles. They were flying around. One thing that I took away is Brandon Finney. Drake Lindsay was not shy in targeting Brandon Finney, and he was a little handsy. He had 1 PI, could have gotten called for a couple more. So I think that's something in the future that he could get targeted a little bit more.
Yeah,
I don't know. I felt like most of those were tight coverages, like that one kind of fade ball down the sideline that was put in a needle. Like there's no corner in the country that I think could guard that better. Like sometimes the offense just makes a great play, and Finney is just. I still think he was like great in coverage. There's 1 PI that I didn't think was PI, but there was a couple that weren't PI that probably should have been. So, I still think he's the top corner in the country. He still plays butt up every single week.
I just think that he's taken away that whole side of the field for most of the season. I think Lindsey was really targeting him one-on-one when it was man coverage, and I think that once we get to these USC, Washington in the playoff, he's gonna just avoid him fully, and I think he's going to see more action, which I think you'll see. I mean, he's a big, rangy corner. I think you could see some picks and really excel with the ball in the air. I also obviously the passing game opened up. That was one of the biggest things that I wanted to see, and I mean, it looked just so easy for them, and I don't know whether the last month it was probably just weather related with the wet conditions at Iowa and then versus Wisconsin, but it opened up and receivers made some great catches, and that's why Dante was able to set the record. Yeah, we got to Jamari Johnson. Brendan, what do you see from how can that like backup tight end position kind of help Sadiq? Because Sadiq gets so much attention and Jamari's just like adding to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jamari Johnson, he's a big tight end. So I mean, kind of at the beginning of the year, we used him a lot as like a fourth down short conversion type of guy where he's there to block. But I think he's really shown his versatility quite a bit. Like the last few weeks, I mean, we've had a lot of receiver injuries. We've kind of struggled. I mean, Gary Bryant didn't play, Dak Moore didn't play, Eastu didn't play. That's three of our best receivers, or three of our most talented and experienced receivers in Eastu and Gary Bryant. But I mean, Brady mentioned it earlier, like Benson, he played great and he's showed out. He's kind of really proved that he is like our third best guy when it comes to it. I mean, once Eastu's back, then, he'll be our third guy. But Jamari really opened up the game, I felt like, for Sadiq, because Jamari started off the game with, I think, 2 receptions, like kind of early on. And so they kind of had to key in on him as like an actual threat and a weapon, because he's just a 6'9", he's just a unit. Like, you get the ball to his hands, he's going to run over a couple of guys and fight for 10 yards every reception. So he's really important.
Yeah, I think Stein's like really getting into like this personnel. Like he used 14 personnel on the goal line, and that isolated Sadiq on that linebacker to get that touchdown. Like using Jamari Johnson and whether it's 22 or 2 tight ends and 1 running back, or he's really deciding to like be more versatile with the offense and use all of his weapons. And I think Jamari Johnson's a huge part of that, because he can block, and like, while he's not the freak athlete that Sadiq is, I don't think anybody in the country is, but like he still gets open one-on-one on those big downs, those second and longs, and those third downs. He's getting open consistently and making plays. So he's really impressed me, especially the more he's gotten involved in the offense.
Yeah, Brendan spoke on the injuries. I have a question for you guys. I think the consensus when we heard that Evan Stewart was coming back was that the Ducks would need him in their national championship run. But, this was a game that it seemed like he could be targeting as a return, but he obviously wasn't even on the injury report as questionable or anything like that. Do you think the Ducks still need him to come back in order to make a title run?
I can go first. I actually think Eastu will probably be back next week. I don't think we need him necessarily, but I mean, with guys like Jamari Johnson really stepping up, and even Benson really stepping up, making some big catches recently, early in the game, late in the game against Iowa. Like, we don't necessarily need him just because we have so much talent. I mean, we have Deer Hill lining up in the slot. Like, we're gonna have Dak Moore back. I believe Dak Moore should be healthy again next week. His injury wasn't as serious as it seemed. It was more of a precautionary situation. This week is short week, give him an extra day of rest. We talked about it a little bit last week with just, how important having this extra day of rest yesterday was on Saturday for our guys. But I don't know. We'll see. I think Eastu really is an impact guy, but I think he comes back next week. I really do. I think if we played on Saturday, there was a good chance that he was on the report as questionable this week, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I think as we look to hopefully gear up for the playoffs and go on a national championship run, like Eastu is almost essential if we want to actually win the entire thing. He opens up the offense and brings another dynamic to the offense that we just don't have as much right now. Benson's kind of our one-on-one down the field guy. as of right now. But Eastu is that guy that was projected as a first round pick for a little bit. Like he's insanely talented. That's always like been his thing. And he can stretch. He's fast. He can be any corner 1-on-1, and he can really win those matchups down the field. And I just feel like that's kind of what we're lacking, is that guy that can consistently win 1-on-1 from that X position on the outside. So I think that like as he gets healthy, hopefully he gets two games to get under his belt before the playoffs and USC and Washington, and he comes back. And Dante Moore has the most arm talent we've seen since Herbert at Oregon, in my opinion. Like the ball just flies off his hand differently, and I think we can get Eastu down the field and 1-on-1, and Stein can get a lot more creative, especially off these play actions. Like you have Sadiq and Eastu on the same side. That's a lot of speed to handle. If you have Dak Moore in the slot, like I don't know if there's anyone in the country that has the athletes to match up with those three guys. So
I'd agree with you, Brody. I think that there's already so many weapons, and having Eastu back is just another weapon. I don't think unless he gets these 2 games under his belt, but I don't think he will like have a full workload. Maybe not all season. I mean, he's working back from a pretty bad injury, but just having like a package of plays for him and have Dante Moore establish that chemistry with him, and just like have that, the defense will gravitate to him, and it'll open up things for other guys as well. So we made some pregame picks. We each picked made some bets. We didn't make these bets, but we made some picks, and we're going to revisit them and keep a running tally of them the whole season. So me and Brendan are 1-0. Brody is 0-1. My pick was Ducks second quarter -7.5. They outscored Minnesota 14-6, so that barely won. Brendan, what was yours?
I had Jordan Davison over 51.5 rush yards. I actually believe that hit in the first quarter. He ripped off a pretty big run early on there, which like I said last week, I was looking at it and I was like, you're telling me that that Davison's not gonna rip off a big run? I think he ripped off like a 35, 37-yard rush. And then, just his other volume carries it. I mean, he actually only barely hit, but he hit in the first quarter, which was kind of crazy to me, that he got 57 rush yards in the first quarter and then got like nothing the rest of the game. It was kind of weird, but yeah.
Yeah, I had Minnesota under 10.5 for the game. They obviously scored 13. I feel like our offense didn't do our defense very many favors, giving them favorable field positions with that hook and ladder. And but it's all good. Yeah,
Minnesota's they came in 6-3, so they're a good team. I think that's something that Duck fans overlooked a little bit. They weren't going to be shut out. I think that was pretty obvious coming in, and with Taylor coming back.
Yeah,
he brought a lot to their offense. So transitioning a little bit, if you guys don't have any other takeaways from the game, all good. All right. So College Game Day is back for the second time this season in Eugene. Third time that the Ducks be featured. Yeah.
First time in 10 years that it's 2 times in a week, or 2 times in a year. So that's big.
Yeah. 35th all time that'll be in Eugene. There were a couple scenarios that played out that helped out the Ducks. Pitt lost to Notre Dame. They were going to play Georgia Tech in a ranked matchup. Cincinnati lost. They were going to play BYU. And then the other options the game they had was Yale, Harvard. They come in with 16-2 combined record. And then Montana and Montana State, the Brawl of the Wild. They have 20-2 combined record. But it will be Oregon at 9-1 and USC at 8-2, both with 6-1 records in the Big Ten. Major CFP implications. What are you guys' takeaways? Obviously excited about that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was also some buzz around JMU versus Stanford getting it. But I mean,
Washington State.
I do wish, or I meant, sorry, yeah, Washington State.
Yeah.
Both former Pac-12 teams, similar things. But I do believe, like, I do wish that like they did go to some of the Group of 5 games, some of those kind of smaller games, just to really grow the sport. But I think in this instance, later in the season, it really makes sense. Like USC beats Oregon at Autzen Stadium. That's Oregon's second loss this year at home, which would be, I mean, that's almost unfathomable. But if that happens, then SC is now looking. They're in the playoffs. So this really is a playoff matchup if you think about it. I mean, SC loses, they're out with 3 losses, probably. There'll be some crazy stuff that goes on. And then, I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit with the playoff situation, but, Oregon wins. That's another Big Ten win. Ohio State loses. Oregon's now a lock for barring a win against UW. But you know how I feel about that game. I think Oregon will slaughter them. Yeah. But I don't know. There's a lot of playoff implications here, and it feels like it's gonna have that playoff atmosphere, especially kind of an old rivalry. So it'll be fun. Oh.
Yeah, but if you guys want to move into the college football playoff, our predictions, we could do that.
Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brody, you want to start with yours?
Yeah, so this is what we think the committee is going to do on Tuesday. So I have OSU at 1, I have A&M at 2 after that insane comeback. I still can't believe South Carolina managed to lose that game. Sorry, I would have Indiana at 2, then A&M at 3. Georgia at 4, Texas Tech moving up 1 spot with the Alabama loss, them in Georgia, Texas Tech at 5. Ole Miss at 6, Oregon at 7, and then I think that Oklahoma, with their win going into Tuscaloosa, giving DeBoer his first loss, will jump Notre Dame and go to 8. And I do think Alabama does have a better win and a better just overall resume than Notre Dame. So I have Notre Dame dropping to 10. I have Alabama going to 9. And then the last 2 in Georgia Tech and JMU.
I don't know, Brady. I can't agree with that Notre Dame take. Notre Dame goes into a ranked opponent matchup on game day and slaughters a team by 30 points. There's absolutely zero chance that the committee, who likes Notre Dame a lot, is going to go, oh yeah, let's drop them 2 spots. That seems a little outrageous there.
They've won. They started the season 0-2. They've won 8 in a row. They beat USC, which is that's turning into a better win by the week.
Yeah.
Brody, I mean, you want to defend yourself here?
Yeah. I mean, I just honestly think Alabama has like a better strength of schedule, and I am very against the SEC is like the best conference, and they're so deep, and every week it's like this super close matchup. Like I just don't think that they're as top end and talented as they were before. But I just think that a win against Georgia just means more to me than Notre Dame, who's lost to the only 2 like opponents. They lost to Miami, and the fact that them and Miami are even that far apart to me is a little ridiculous. I think that I just think Bama is honestly a better football team, and they would probably, when they do play A&M, since they have the tiebreaker in the SEC championship, if they play A&M, I think they probably beat A&M or closer to beating them than Notre Dame, even though that was a really close game at the end. But I'm just not very high on Notre Dame in general. I don't think this is what the committee will do, but that's what.
All right, Brendan. So I know this doesn't have this isn't really what the committee looks at, but if Alabama and Notre Dame played, who do you think would win?
Oh, I think Bama would win. I agree with Brody. I don't think Notre Dame is a very talented team. Like, they're talented, but they're just not a great team. Marcus Freeman's a good coach. It's just, it feels like every single year Notre Dame's one of those teams that just sneaks into a playoff run, and then they play some, mediocre team or team that's like, okay, you really shouldn't have got in, and then they get slaughtered by a good team. Like, it just feels like they kind of just get lucky. I mean, I guess it is the luck of the Irish, but I mean, it just feels like they get lucky every single year. I mean, last year even I have no idea how they made the national championship. I mean, if they played on the Oregon, Tennessee side of the bracket, I guarantee you they lose to probably 6 of those teams. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with Brody, but I think the committee will. I don't think they'll make any adjustments there. The committee always, for whatever reason, loves Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's losses are to number 3 Texas A&M, who's probably right now the SEC's prized team at this point after that comeback, which was, like Brady said, I don't know how you choke that game, especially with Texas A&M having the 130th ranked rush defense in the country, and they're down by 27 points at halftime. Like, you would think that Beamer would just run the ball with Lenore Sellers. I mean, put Nicholas Hubbard in the backfield to run the ball. Like they're not going to stop him. You honestly get like 5 first downs in the second half, and that game's over. That's literally all you needed to do, and it just felt like every single time I was looking at the game, it was A&M had the ball and we're driving, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the half, like it felt like they were trying to lose the game. They have 3 timeouts and they wait till there's 11 seconds left, and then they get a holding call.
Yeah.
Like they have no shot at a touchdown. They weren't being aggressive. Like they were playing passive, and then the second half they decided not to run the ball. It's like I just don't understand what they were thinking there, and I feel like they were trying to lose that game at the end of the day. So
I think it's also worth pointing out, we got a comment in the chat about this, that Alabama and Oklahoma don't have the toughest schedules to finish the season. Alabama has a cupcake against Eastern Illinois, and then they play at Auburn in the Iron Bowl. They should win that, and if they win those, they're going to be in. And then Oklahoma plays Missouri and LSU, both at home. The Missouri game, I think, is going to be a little tougher, but they should, if they take care of business, both Oklahoma and Alabama will be in. And so I think this Alabama-Oklahoma game had some huge implications as far as pushing other teams out if Oklahoma was to win. Because if Bama wins, Oklahoma's out. Bama's going to stay in the top 4 probably. So I think that's worth pointing out, and that someone in the chat clearly does not like the SEC is scheduling these cupcake games late in the season.
I don't think anyone likes how these SEC schedules are. I mean, I believe they're looking to adjust it a little bit with, I think, adding an extra SEC game. I think there was some buzz around that. I don't know if that actually got confirmed. I can't remember. But it was kind of early on in the year. They were talking about the SEC going to I believe next year going to an extra game, SEC game schedule, which finally, I mean, if the SEC is as deep as SEC fans think it is and they say it is, then, we're going to actually see a lot less. We're going to see a lot more parity in the SEC, which, again, we're not going to. It's going to be Ole Miss, Bama, Georgia, top of the food chain every single time. Like, I don't really know.
I think there may not be the parity in the sense of that word, but I mean, you saw South Carolina, they have one conference win and they went toe to toe with Texas A&M. They should have won. And then Arkansas, I don't think they have a conference win, but they're having close losses. It's very unlike the Big Ten, where there's the bottom is the bottom and they're getting beat by 30 or 40 every week. I think that shows the difference. I think the top is pretty similar, but the middle tier and the bottom of the SEC and Big Ten is just different, in my opinion.
I mean, I think I would agree to an extent. I think the bottom of the Big Ten is pretty weak. Like, you have a team like Michigan State or, but I mean, like, even in the Big Ten, I mean, we saw Wisconsin beat UW. And so it was kind of like, there's still a little bit of that, those close matches. I mean, Wisconsin gave Oregon a run for our money. Like, UCLA comes in and they beat some teams. Like, it still happens. It's not as often as in the SEC. Whereas I feel like in the SEC, like the good teams win every time, or like the better team wins most of the time. Like they, in that game, like whoever plays better is going to win the game. And so I don't know. I mean, I agree for the most part, like the bottom of the SEC is definitely better than the Big Ten, but I would say like the middle tier and above I would say it's about similar. I would argue that the top 3 teams in the Big Ten would beat any SEC team in the country. Like, I think the major difference between the SEC and Big Ten from all the other conferences, like the ACC, what was the Pac-12, and then the Big 12 is just like the offensive and defensive lines are just physically, it's a different level, and that's what controls the game. So
yeah. I think my biggest problem with it, I feel like my biggest problem with it is like every single time that a Big Ten like has a scare, like these are all Division I athletes, they're all very talented, and there are some very good coaches in these conferences. And every time a Big Ten team plays a close game, it discredits them. And then anytime an SEC team plays a close game, it's like how deep the SEC is. So I think the bottom of the SEC absolutely is more talented than the bottom of the Big Ten, but it's just like they don't have any grace for playing a tough game in tough conditions, or just like I just feel like they wait more on the SEC when it shouldn't be that way. When everyone's going to play a close game with a bad team, unless they're a truly dominant national championship like in LSU or. Yeah, I don't know. That's the part that just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I feel that. Do you guys have any more takeaways, or how do you think the rest of the playoff will play out? I know, Brendan, you had some thoughts on the implications of the Michigan Ohio State game.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like looking at the end of the season. I guess let me share my prediction for the bracket for on Tuesday. Just because Brody shared his, but we haven't shared ours yet, and then I'll kind of go into what I think is going to happen, how it's going to shake out the rest of the year. But I have Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M 1, 2, and 3. Nothing really changes there. Georgia at 4, and then 5 is Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech, they slaughtered UCF. They needed to win that game big. They did their job. I'm not super high on Texas Tech individually. Like I think Ole Miss, Oregon, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Bama. I think the next 5 teams in my bracket beat them like pretty handily by probably 2 scores. But whatever, teach their own. Ole Miss. So I got Texas Tech at 5, Ole Miss at 6, Oregon at 7. I think Ole Miss is overrated. I think Oregon actually should be higher than them. I think in my bracket I would have it be Oregon at 5, Ole Miss at 6, and then 5 is Texas Tech. I think Ole Miss would beat Texas Tech, but I think Ole Miss is not great. They just have 1 loss. I can't put them below a team like Oklahoma or Bama, Notre Dame. But whatever.
Oregon with a win over USC, I think, would jump them, and I think that's another one of those things that the committee is setting up for. They've set up these weeks with the matchups, and I think that's something that they can set up. And if the Ducks win, they jump them.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
Yeah, and another point I wanted to bring up a little bit earlier, but I think I was lagging out, is this really, like Brennan was saying earlier, this game against USC really is a playoff game, because with Oklahoma beating Bama, I don't know if Oregon makes it with their schedule with 2 losses anymore. So this really is the biggest game of the week. I don't know if Oregon makes the playoff.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think actually Alabama losing actually hurts Oregon in a way, because if we lose, then we're out. They're going to take Alabama over Oregon any day of the week. Whether I think that's how it should be or not, it's up to people's opinions. But no, I agree with you 100%. Like this is a must-win game for both teams, and it's playoff implications. Whoever wins this game is making the playoffs, basically. So, yeah. I guess I can round out my list, but I mean, I have Oregon at 7, Notre Dame at 8, Oklahoma at 9, 10 is Bama, and then Georgia Tech at 11, 12 JMU. I mean, I think you have to throw an ACC team in there. Georgia Tech looked atrocious by almost losing to Boston College. I mean, that is unbelievable. And then JMU, best group of 5 team that there is, especially after USF lost. That was a crazy game. USF and Navy, that was nuts. But that puts JMU kind of in the driver's seat for that group of 5 team to make it, which is exciting, because they're one of those teams that kind of got snubbed a couple years ago with their bowl games and going I think they went 9-1 or 10-1. They went had a great season, and so it was just kind of unfortunate. But if they can sneak in, I'm rooting for JMU. They're a cool team. I mean, I'm rooting for them unless they're playing against Oregon. If Oregon's a 5 seed, then I'm gonna root for Oregon.
I have the same top 12 as you, and I wanted to pose a question to you guys. So with the new 12-team playoff, obviously there's a group of 5 team is guaranteed a spot. Do you guys think that is good for the game of college football, or as in, I think it's fine. It's good because it expands the teams that can make it, but also there's years, and this is shaping up to be a year where JMU is just going to get crushed. What do you like? What are you guys' take on that?
So, I'll go and then I'll let Brady speak. But I think it's actually a good thing to have one of these smaller teams make it every year. I mean, we got to last year we had Boise State, and it almost it almost allows people to like kind of get to know these guys' names. I mean, if you think about it, it's like the national champion of the group of five. Like it's the best team in the group of five. And so in a way, you have these like Wednesday MAC games, and it almost is like it makes college football more exciting because you get to just throw on a random game on a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Tuesday, whatever. They always be having random games, and it could be like a North Texas USF game, which I believe happened not that long ago. Which I watched that game. It was a great game, and so I think it allows for in the regular season more excitement around these kind of smaller schools, and it just allows for if you're like a kid that's looking to go play at a school like I don't know, a bottom tier SEC or a bottom tier Big Ten, whatever, and you got like a Kansas State offer, but then you get an offer from JMU, you could get some talent down there. I could see some potential, maybe not 5 stars, but 4-star recruits looking at going to some of these group of 5 schools that are exciting and have some potential with a really good coach. But I do agree in that regard. Like I think once the playoffs come around, they're probably not going to win. And if they do win, if they do end up beating the 5 seed, then it's they're in some trouble. They're facing the the 1 seed and stuff from so forth. But I don't know. I think it's a fun thing for college football. I don't think it's a bad thing. But
yeah, I think Brandon kind of hit on the money. I think it really grows the game. Like it makes those games matter so much more. And Boise State last year, like they were a pretty good team. Like I think if they didn't play like a Penn State and they ended up playing like a little bit less talented team, like they might have been a little bit closer. Like I think it just adds more excitement each and every week to college football, and it really makes people have to tune into those games instead of tune them out. And if they get slaughtered, like at the end of the day, like the 5 seed, like they probably should be rewarded a little bit because they're a top 5 team in the country and they barely miss out on a bye. So I just think it's an overall good thing for college football. It gets more exposure for all those small schools, gets more money into those schools for things more than football too. So I think it's just an overall net positive.
Yeah, I think it's good for the game as well. It gives those group of 5 teams like some hope, like that someone in that group will make it to the playoff and be on the big stage. So I'd say it's a net positive for college football.
Yeah.
If we want to transition to we're gonna on Sundays we're thinking about doing like a little draft based on a theme from the previous game. And
actually, hold on. There's one more thing I want to talk about since we're talking about the playoffs. Which I didn't touch on, but kind of like what I'm thinking is going to end up shaping up to be towards the kind of the end of the year. I didn't talk about it, and I kind of wanted to. But with Ohio State being the number 1 team in the country right now, and Indiana being number 2, there's a lot of stuff that like there is still so much football that has to be played, even just for the regular season. For the Big Ten championship, for the SEC championship, even the ACC championship, there's going to be some serious playoff implications with Georgia Tech and Virginia. But I think it'll be exciting if we're Duck fans, if Ohio State ends up losing to Michigan, which they have done 3 years in a row. Now, I guess everybody's saying, 4 years in a row. We're rooting for Michigan to go for number 5. I think they have a much more talented team than they do last year. They beat the eventual national championship winners with Davis Mills at quarterback, which is, Davis Warren, my bad. He's that irrelevant. He's atrocious.
Literally.
That I think that Bryce Underwood, it's his freshman year. Like he could really have a marquee win, beating a good old Ohio State, and then that would put Indiana in the 1 spot, and then that would mean that Oregon and Indiana play in the Big Ten championship, which I actually see a world where Oregon could end up as the number 1 team in the country if they end up beating Indiana in a neutral site later in the year. Now that would mean A&M would have to lose, and right now I believe that the matchup is looking to be A&M and Bama, which Bama's probably not going to lose to Auburn, but it's the Iron Bowl. You kind of never know. But assuming Bama wins out, they will play Texas A&M in the SEC championship. And I am not very high on Texas A&M. A&M is a good team. They're just not a great team. I mean, we saw what happened against South Carolina. If that happens against Alabama, Alabama is going to finish the game out 45-3, not blow a 30 or a 27-point lead. And Bama has a good rushing attack. They have a really good O-line, good running back in Jam Miller. Like they're going to get the job done. And so I think if Bama beats A&M, Oregon, beats USC, beats UW, they probably climb a spot. They probably jump Ole Miss. And then if Ohio State loses, Ohio State will probably fall behind Oregon because their loss to Michigan would be a much worse loss. And then Oregon beats Indiana. We're looking at a new number 1 team in the country. But there's a lot of things that have to happen. But it could be exciting.
And that would be really interesting. Oh, sorry, I was going to say, like, if Michigan did end up beating Ohio State, that would be really interesting for the playoffs because, like, Michigan at 2 losses with a win over the number 1 team in the country, like, do they get in over Bama or Oklahoma or Notre Dame? Like, that's going to be a real debate. And if they get snubbed out of that, like, there would be a lot of talk and just, like, fury, I bet, and outrage by just, like, college football in general. So I think that's probably the funniest thing that could happen.
It would be pretty funny. Also, because Michigan's their 2 losses are to USC and UW? Is that right?
No, they beat UW.
They beat USC, didn't they?
Oh, Oklahoma at the beginning of the year.
Oklahoma and USC. USC 31-13.
So they're obviously not getting over Oklahoma, but
that's still a solid loss.
I mean, those are 2 pretty good losses at this point. They're shaping up to be really good losses, and it'll be, I don't know, there'll be some serious Big Ten chaos, as well as SEC chaos. But yeah, I think we can move on here to our last segment. Bjorn, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing like a draft related to a theme from the last game, and against Minnesota, Dante was just super accurate. Receivers made some great catches, but program record speaks for itself, 90% completion percentage. So we're gonna, each of us will go around, each draft a quarterback in the first round, former Oregon quarterback who is just super accurate, and then we'll go and do a second round, and we'll each have 2 quarterbacks for our team, and then the commons can decide who's the winner. If you guys want to do a snake draft, I feel like that would be best. So
yeah, and also we're looking at just like kind of just most accurate. That's kind of the theme here.
Yep.
That's what we're picking.
That's the theme. Yeah. Brody, if you want to go first, I can go second. Brendan, you can go third and fourth.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think the obvious number 1 pick, greatest quarterback in Oregon history. It was very few times with the ball at the ground when Mariota was on the field. So I feel like you got to go Marcus Mariota, number 1 pick, no brainer.
All right. I will go with Bo Nix. He's one of the most accurate. I mean, he started his career at Auburn and he was far from accurate. But then during his time at Oregon, I think with Will Stein as coordinator, he refined his mechanics and he turned into one of the most accurate passes in the country. I think he led the country in completion percentage his senior year. So I will take Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about pure accuracy, that's another great pick. That's probably our second most accurate in Oregon QB history. I think I'm left here with a bit of a difficult situation. I think I'm going to go Joey Harrington as my first round pick. At number 3, it's Joey Harrington, man. I mean, he was legendary at Oregon, and he was really exciting to watch. And he was accurate. I mean, good QB. I mean, when it comes to my next pick, the issue is we've had a lot of great QBs in Oregon history. I mean, we look back the last 10 years, you've got Vernon Adams, Dennis Dixon, Justin Herbert. Got a lot of great guys. But if we're talking about accuracy, I would say I don't want to say there's some recency bias, but I think when it comes to accuracy, under Will Stein's offense, you have to go with Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel was very accurate. I mean, he was consistently around 80% accuracy, kind of like Bo was. I think Bo was slightly more accurate, so I think that was the better pick. But
I think Bo threw downfield more. Gabriel was more dinking and dunking, but he still had his fair share of throws, outbreaking routes, that sort of thing.
If you look at completion percentage, he was well above 70, it felt like, every single time. So, yeah, those are my two.
That's okay. Harrington and Gabriel. All right.
Yeah.
I'll take Justin Herbert. I think, I think he evolved once he got to the NFL. He kind of his play style sort of opened up to more downfield passing. But I think you see that on Sundays now as he's got a huge arm, doesn't need a ton of air on his passes, but he can layer it when he needs to, or he can just laser it right in there. So I will have Bo Nix and Justin Herbert as my team. Brody?
All right. Well, last pick. I mean, we just talked about it. He had a career day. I'm going Dante Moore. I just looked it up. 27th all time in completion percentage right now, shaping up to be a great season. I feel like the thing with Dante Mariota, just they might not have the same level of completion percentage as Knicks, but I feel like they are more like aggressive and targeting the intermediate and deep parts of the field. And I think that they can hit all three parts of the field with overall more accuracy than your guys' bums. So.
Oh, well, the comments will decide. So comment below which team you think is best. I think we're good to wrap it up, right, guys?
Yeah, no, I got nothing else to add. I mean, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. We're gonna do some recruiting talk, and then also some exciting talks about USC next week with College Game Day coming. It'll be really exciting.
Yep.
Yeah. And
right,
absolutely, I was going to say, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have any questions at all, leave them underneath the comment section. We will go back and we'll look at the comments. And if you're in here, feel free to drop comments throughout the show. We'll always be looking for those, looking to answer any questions you guys have at any point in the show. So we appreciate y'all coming out here.
Yeah, appreciate you guys watching. This is the Oregon Ducks Live on Voice of College Football signing out.
Yep.